$14,238. That's the exact total on a real storm damage roof estimate. Shingles, labor, permits, all itemized, all approved by the homeowner, and then nothing. No callback, no signed contract, no start date, for weeks. If that sounds familiar, you didn't lose that job because your price was wrong. You lost it because somebody else stayed in front of that homeowner while their insurance claim sat in limbo. And you didn't. Every roofer running storm work has a version of this job sitting somewhere in their pipeline right now. A quote that was clearly approved, a homeowner who seemed ready to move forward, and then total silence that stretches from days into weeks. It's easy to assume that silence means the homeowner chose someone cheaper, or decided not to do the work at all. In most cases, neither is true. In the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly what happens inside that silence, why it has almost nothing to do with your bid, and the exact system that keeps you the roofer they call back instead of the one they quietly forgot. Here's what's actually happening when a homeowner goes quiet after a storm damage estimate. They're not ignoring you. They're stuck inside their insurance company's timeline, and that timeline is almost entirely outside their control. Under normal conditions, a storm damage roof claim typically takes 2 to 6 weeks from filing to initial approval and payment. The adjuster inspects within the first week or two. Then the insurer issues its estimate and approval a few weeks after that. After a major storm or widespread hail event, the timeline commonly stretches to 4, 8, even 12 or more weeks, because every adjuster in the region is working through a backlog at the same time. To the homeowner, it feels like they're the ones waiting on their insurance company to move. To you, sitting on the other end with an approved estimate and no update, it feels like they've disappeared entirely. If you've ever quoted a job like this, drop a comment with the longest you've ever waited to hear back. I want to see how common this actually is. While you're waiting, the homeowner isn't sitting still, and neither is everyone else who noticed their roof. They're getting calls from other roofers who spotted the tarp or the temporary patch from the street. They're getting texts from contractors just checking in to see how the claim's going. Some are even offering to call the adjuster directly on the homeowner's behalf, or promising to help push the paperwork along faster. None of that requires a better price, a better crew, or better materials. It just requires showing up during the exact window most roofers go completely silent, assuming the ball is in the homeowner's court. Meanwhile, the homeowner is forming an impression of who's actually paying attention to their situation, and that impression sticks long before any contract gets signed. That's the entire opportunity hiding inside this problem. The job isn't lost to a cheaper bid, and it isn't lost because your estimate was wrong. It's lost to whoever stayed visible the longest while the claim worked its way through underwriting. The first fix is simple, even if it takes some discipline to actually run. Stop treating follow-up as one phone call you make and then wait to hear back. Build a cadence instead, a check-in around day 3, another around day 10, another around day 21, timed to roughly match how long these claims typically take to move through underwriting. Each touch isn't just checking in for the sake of checking in. It's a specific, useful update, like sharing what a typical next step looks like at that stage of the claim, or what homeowners in similar situations usually experience around that time frame. Done consistently, across every storm damage job on your board, that cadence becomes the difference between being the contractor a homeowner forgot about and the one they mentioned to the adjuster by name. Stay with me, because the next two pieces of this system are what make that cadence actually happen without you manually tracking every homeowner in a notebook. This is where artificial intelligence actually earns its place in your business, not replacing your relationship with the homeowner, and not sending robotic, generic spam. It's making sure no one falls through the cracks while their claim sits in limbo, especially during your busiest storm season when you've got dozens of these jobs moving through the pipeline at once. A simple AI-driven text and email sequence can check in automatically at each stage of the cadence from the last scene, using the timing you've already set, so every homeowner hears from you consistently, whether you personally remember to reach out that week or not. You still control the message and the tone. The AI just makes sure the timing never slips, even on your busiest weeks, and even across dozens of open storm claims running at the same time. That consistency alone is often the deciding factor in who gets the job, especially when every other roofer chasing that same homeowner is relying on memory instead of a system. The messages themselves matter just as much as the timing behind them. Instead of a generic "just following up," give the homeowner something genuinely useful. What an adjuster typically looks for at their specific stage of the claim, what a supplement request means if their insurer comes back asking for one, or what to realistically expect once the claim finally gets approved. That kind of message positions you as the contractor who's guiding them through a confusing, unfamiliar process, not the one hounding them for a signature every few days. It costs you nothing extra to send, and it's the exact kind of touchpoint that makes a homeowner comfortable reaching back out the moment they do have an update. I've put together a free storm damage estimate follow-up worksheet that maps out exactly what to send at each stage of the claim, so you're never staring at a blank text box trying to figure out what to say this week. It's in the description if you'd rather use the ready-made version than build this from scratch yourself. Let's put a real number on this. A $14,238 roof job sitting ghosted for even a few weeks isn't a small miss-e. And there's no single published industry figure for how many storm damage estimates die from pure non-response. But a reasonable planning range based on how these leads typically behave is somewhere between 10 and 25%, higher in oversaturated post-storm markets, lower when follow-up is fast and consistent. Now compare that against the cost of running a basic follow-up system. A simple no-code setup using automation tools and AI usually runs a few $1,000s to build and a few $100s a month to maintain. Set that against jobs worth over $14,000 each, and losing even one job a season to silence costs more than years of running the system. Even if you land on the conservative end of that range, it's still real jobs walking away for a reason that has nothing to do with your workmanship or your bid. The biggest hesitation I hear from roofers is not wanting to seem like they're pressuring someone who just went through real damage to their home, sometimes their biggest asset. That hesitation is fair, but there's a real distinction between pressure and value, and it comes down to what you're actually saying. Pressure sounds like, "Have you made a decision yet?" Or, "Just wanted to see where we stand." Value sounds like, "Wanted to flag that adjusters are backed up right now, so it's completely normal if you haven't heard back yet. Here's what usually happens next at this stage." Same intention behind both messages, completely different experience for the homeowner receiving them. One makes them feel chased and puts them on the defensive. The other makes them feel taken care of, like you're the one professional who actually understands what they're going through with the claim, and that feeling is exactly what makes a homeowner pick up the phone when they finally do have news to share. So, to recap, homeowners aren't ghosting you on purpose. They're stuck in an insurance timeline you can't control, dealing with an adjuster and a claims process that moves at its own pace regardless of how ready they are to start. What you can control is staying visible during that gap with a real cadence, backed by artificial intelligence so the timing never slips even on your busiest weeks, and messaging that helps the homeowner instead of pressuring them. That combination is what turns an approved but silent estimate into a signed job weeks later, instead of a job that quietly goes to whoever else stayed in front of the homeowner. If this helped you see why your storm damage quotes go quiet, do me a favor and tap that like button. It tells YouTube to show this to more roofers dealing with the exact same thing. And if you want more systems like this one, subscribe to Missed Call Money so you don't miss the next one.